So now is the 19th day of this retreat. And so that the yogis don't have disturbances during their practice, so that they can practice without interference, there are 4 guardian meditations. And the first of these is Buddhanusati, reflection on the qualities, the special qualities of the Buddha. Now, sometimes people don't revere a personal figure. So because of that, Sayadaw's talked about the virtues of the Dhamma, the qualities of the Dhamma. Now, when someone's behavior, physically, verbally, and mentally, is clean and pure, first, this is a practice the Dhamma is a practice that brings about this purity. So first we have to learn the method, and then we have to walk the path. If we walk the path, we'll reach the destination. So it's just following the path and arriving at the destination. Now, following the path is the work that we have to do, and reaching the destination is the result that comes. So, although Sayadaw hasn't mentioned directly the virtues of the Buddha, you can imagine the quality of a person who preached this method. So we can consider that the qualities of the Buddha have already been covered by virtue of Sayadawji's showing the qualities of the Dhamma. So that covers the first of the 4 guardian meditations. So the next one to be covered is Metta Bhavana, loving kindness meditation. So knowing the virtues of the Dhamma, whether it's a lot or a little, then we will do the work of the Dhamma. So first of all, we know that if we err, if we go the wrong way, we'll get bad results. So we avoid doing those things, and therefore we don't get the bad results. And also, as far as what we should do, first of all, we learn what we should do, and then we trust that these will bring good results. And because of that belief, the faith that we will get good results from the practice, from following the Dhamma, we have zeal, we have desire or chanda to do the work. And so we make effort, and as much as we make effort, we get results. That's about Dhamma practice. Now, as far as the reflection on the Buddha's qualities, when we recite at the beginning of taking the precepts, Namo Tassa Bhagavato, we're doing a kind of reflection on the Buddha's qualities. We're naming the Buddha's special qualities when we do that. Now, another way of looking at it is that we take the refuge. We recite Buddham Saranam Gacchami, Dhammam Saranam Gacchami, Sangham Saranam Gacchami. So we take refuge in the Buddha, the one who preached this method. And we take refuge in the Dhamma, that is the way he taught. What he taught, just as he taught it. And we also take refuge in the enlightened ones who followed this path and become enlightened. So the Buddha is the one who preached the Dhamma that can make us cultured. And the Dhamma is that which lifts up the status of a human being, keeps us from going downward. Now, some people don't know the method, or they know the method, but they don't practice. But so, if we don't practice, we'll always be within the gravitational pull of the kilesas. We'll be pulled by the kilesas. Now, here what we do is we take precepts, and that controls our physical and verbal behavior, so that we are avoiding transgressions physically and verbally. And in the practice, we're protecting our minds with sati, with mindfulness, so that the obsessive forms of kilesas are suppressed. They don't arise. And slowly, we develop Vipassana knowledge. Vipassana knowledge removes the latent kilesas. So as much as we develop Vipassana knowledge, to that extent, the latent kilesas will be removed. So if we remove kilesas, if we become a sotapanna, a stream enterer, we remove one level of kilesas, that's one level of purity. And so on, up into arahantship of total cleanliness. Mama Pia, she had to be to come down and Jana and Babu. That's how to be to total look planet. The Buddha talked about two kinds of things. One is adhamma and the other is dhamma. Now, adhamma are what we would call bad practices, things we shouldn't do. And, for example, physically, things we should not do physically. Killing, stealing, and committing adultery. Those are physical acts which are bad practices. And verbally, verbal bad practices are lying, speaking harshly, and divisive speech, trying to split people. Slander, and also frivolous talk and idle speech. Those are all practices that should be avoided verbally and mentally. Also, bad practices mentally are desiring to get things that belong to somebody else by illegal means, by wrong means, and also wanting to harm another person or another being, planning how to harm somebody. And also, the third one is believing that if we do good, it won't bring any good result. If we do bad, it doesn't matter. Whatever we do, there's no result to our actions. These are all adhamma, and they're also known as the 10 duccaritas. Duccarita means bad practice, evil practice. Now, out of compassion, the Buddha taught us that these things are to be avoided. And likewise, the Dhamma consists of good practices. So what are the good practices that we should do? Physically, we should avoid killing, avoid stealing, and avoid committing adultery. And verbally, we should speak the truth, we should avoid lying, and we should not speak harshly, we should speak sweetly, with loving kindness. And also, we should avoid slander, and we should speak what is meaningful. Now mentally, the practices that are good are non-greed and loving-kindness, metta, and also understanding, believing that when we do good, it will bring good results. When we do bad, it will bring bad results. Now, when we eat food, if we take vitamins and we eat nourishing food that contain vitamins, then we'll get energy. And our complexion will be bright and clean, and we'll have good health. So these good practices are like taking vitamins. Oh, and also the bad practices are like poison. They're things that we should avoid. So there's just these two aspects of Dhamma: avoiding what is unsuitable and taking, ingesting, or doing what is suitable. And it's very important to understand this. The Buddha himself preached Dhamma and Adhamma. The Dhamma which is to be practiced, and Adhamma is that which is to be avoided. Nahi dhammo adhammo cha ubo samavipakino adhammo niryaneti dhammo papeti sugateng. This is a gatha that the Buddha said. Dhamma and Dhamma are not the same. They do not bring the same result. Adhamma leads one to the hell realms, to Nirya, to the lower realms. Dhamma carries one to a good rebirth. So it's like when we take unsuitable food. Unsuitable food brings us disease, and it can even, and even worse. And suitable food, on the other hand, brings us good health. So the result of Dhamma and the result of Adhamma are different. Well, the result of Dhamma is happiness and prosperity. Dhamma brings us to a good life. Dhammo papeti sugateng. Now, Adhamma, on the other hand, leads us to the lower realms. So one has to understand this for oneself. One has to avoid that which is bad and keep one's physical, verbal, and mental behaviors clean and pure. And through the practice, with the protection of sati, we can work to uproot the kilesas, developing knowledge and finally uprooting the very seeds of the kilesas themselves. So the Buddha is not someone who encouraged us or told us to go on faith alone, that if we have faith, that alone is enough. He pointed out the path that we need to follow, and that those who want to obtain freedom need to make strenuous effort to work for that. The Buddha said that he said to his disciples that your work is to make the effort. The Buddha simply points out the path through ekataro tathagato. Tathagata. Ekataro tathagata. The Buddhas are the ones who point out the path. But the work is to be done by us. So if we want to reach a place that is free of danger, we'll only be able to do that if there's a road. if there's no road, if the road hasn't been broken to reach that safe place, it won't be possible to go there. The Buddha is the one that opened the road so that we could reach the goal. But he won't walk it for us. We have to walk it for ourselves. Now, if we think that just believing is enough, then if we believe in the Buddha, then we're saved. Okay? If we are that way, then we won't have the energy, we won't make effort to do what needs to be done and to avoid what shouldn't be done. So our energy will just drop. In the life that we have, we meet up with suffering. This suffering comes about due to bad practices. So these are things that we should avoid. Now, if we avoid them, what will happen? If we avoid bad practices, what will happen? The Buddha said, Patipanno pamalkanti. Those who reach the goal will rejoice. The one who observes with concentration escapes from the bonds of Mara. Now, with the practice of sila, we overcome the vitekama kilesas, transgressive defilements. And with a focused mind, with concentration, making effort to observe the object, we can overcome the pariyotana kilesas, the obsessive defilements. And as vipassana jnana, vipassana knowledge develops, we can overcome the latent kilesas. And if we do so to the point of reaching arahantship, we'll become free of the bonds of Mara. Now, Mara literally means killer. No, Mara kills us, lifetime after lifetime. So we'll be free from Mara, and we won't die anymore if we become an arahant. So Mara means the killer, the one who causes us to die. So when we're talking about a person, we mean these qualities of sila, samadhi, and panya. It doesn't actually physically cause us to die, but he causes our sila, samadhi, and panya to die. So if our virtues die and disappear, although we're alive, it's like, in a way, we are dead. So the body is alive, but the person is dead if they don't have sila, samadhi, or panya. So what kills us are the kilesas of raga, dosa, and moha. Well, for example, if we have raga and if we have lust, and we let ourselves have whatever sense pleasures we want, if we just go wild with sense pleasures, enjoy them freely, our reputation and our virtue will die. Sorry? Will be ruined. Our reputation will be ruined. So when we have a lot of lust, if we don't know what is right and what is wrong. So we don't even know whether something is right or wrong when we're overcome with lust. So if you look at someone who has a lot of greed, you'll see you'll see that. And people go to the extent of taking drugs and not being able to control their anger. So if our virtue dies, then we also die. So this Mara is really our nearest enemy. So when we practice Sila, we overcome the form of Mara that exists in the transgressive kilesas. And when we practice Samadhi, when we are focused, then we overcome the form of Mara that is known as Paryotana kilesas, or obsessive kilesas. And when we develop knowledge, then we overcome the latent kilesas bit by bit. And especially if we reach first path, Sotapatti path, then we will overcome the form of Mara that can lead us to the lower realms. So how do we do this? We do this by observing the object face to face, straight on. So as far as the practice of Sila goes, this section of the talk is about walking the correct path to reach the destination. Now, observing Sila, we all have our relevant Sila. Lay people keep the precepts of a lay person. The monks have their Sila. Novices have their Sila. The Sila that we observe overcomes the very coarse forms of kilesas. So, when we practice our Sila, we are overcoming the internal enemy. Our behavior, physically and verbally, is becoming clean and pure and gentle. So because of walking the path of Sila, we gain this. Now, when we're meditating, starting with the rising and the falling, we make the effort not to miss any one of the rising objects. We make the effort not to miss a single object. We aim, and doing so, we come face to face with the object. So the mind sticks to the object, and concentration arises. So we apply energy, and with energy and concentration, our minds become calm. And doing so, we achieve victory over the obsessive kilesas. We don't react with greed or with anger. So, the situation of the mind is good. But this happens. For this to happen, the yogis must practice respectfully. If one doesn't practice respectfully or with care, it's not possible to reach that result. So when we practice respectfully, if you think about it, every noting, if we have one noting every second, we're noting an object every second, then in 1 minute, there's 60 seconds where 60 notings, and in a whole day, about 3,600 or more. So with each noting, we are overcoming the killer, Mara, every time we make a noting. So this is the virtue of the Dhamma, that when we walk the correct path, we will reach the destination. Now, if we don't do this, our virtue will be ruined, our virtues will disappear. But if we do this, we will be able to achieve victory over the killer. Now this is the kind of Dhamma that the Buddha preached. Knowing the virtues of the Dhamma, one will know how great and how excellent the Buddha was. So, This type of understanding of the quality of the Buddha is Buddhanusati. So, by hearing about the Dhamma, our faith is awakened, and through practice it increases and becomes firm. Now, if with faith, understanding of the virtues of the Dhamma, one will want the basic human culture that the Dhamma brings for oneself. So the Buddhist culture is that which brings about refined behavior and clean behavior. One has to make the effort oneself, but knowing the virtues of the Dhamma, one will make effort in the practice. And one will also revere the Buddha. So for today, this is all that Sayadaw will say about the first of the 4 guardian meditations, and tomorrow he will begin to talk about metta. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.